Evening, everyone. Welcome to tonight's live webinar. I am Ree, your VA coach, and I'm excited to guide you on your journey as a virtual assistant. My goal is to share the lessons I've learned in freelancing for more than a decade so you can build a successful career. As your VA coach, I believe in hands on learning in one on one sessions and real world preparation. Through these webinars, I aim to help you gain some insights on how to develop the skills, work ethic, and adaptability needed to thrive in the digital workspace. We're excited to have you here tonight, and we encourage you to actively participate, ask questions to make the most of this learning experience. Now, let's get started. Welcome to tonight's session about getting hired as virtual assistants. Let me introduce tonight's guest. Alistair is a career and business coach who helps professionals and entrepreneurs grow and succeed. As a leader at organizations, he has guided many people through career changes, helped them set clear goals, and supported them in finding new opportunities. Now, as a CEO of Synergy Ecosystems, he understands the challenges of starting out and knows what it takes to stand out in the industry. Through his coaching, he provides practical advice, step by step guidance, and the right strategies to help professionals gain confidence, develop their skills, and attract the right clients. Let us all welcome Alistair Scott. So, hi, Adi. Welcome to tonight's webinar. Thank you for accepting the invitation to be interviewed by yours truly. It's such an honor. How are you today?
I'm good. Thanks for having me, Ree. Pleasure to share some of my crazy thoughts.
Yes, you have such an amazing journey yourself. So, I would like these people and aspiring virtual assistants to hear more about you. So, can you tell us about your journey as a professional coach and business coach, maybe at the same time? So, was it something that you've already known since you started your career, or was it a transition?
I knew nothing about coaching as a pathway, as a career, even as a hobby. When I left college, my first job was to go and teach.
Oh,
Um, and even then, my second job was uh, for me, community development, but for the world, people consider it international development because I was doing it in a developing country, right? And that was my dream job. And I did that job for about a decade. Um, at different levels, got promoted and so on. I therefore I've been teaching on the side even when I was doing that job at colleges and so on, tutoring at university, doing my dream job for years. Never occurred to me. My first tinkering of an interest into business coaching was in helping community groups fashion plans for local economic development. And in doing that, then I got to learn about, how to do a business canvas and, the stages in launching something, the pitfalls of, micro entrepreneurs. How does government, how does, bigger entities facilitate that? So that was my first introduction. Still no interest. My Then it developed into I want to do something for myself. And so then I started a tour company. And that took me a year to set up. Um, Very long, very arduous process, but it gave me a lot of joy. And that opened my eyes. And so when I migrated to the US after all of that, um, did some other things, sales and education and so on. It was only then that I discovered coaching, right?
oh,
And so
wow.
it took a long time for me to even know that this was a thing. 'Cause I had
How
no
long?
idea.
How long did it take you for you to realize that? Roughly how many years?
Um, I think I discovered even though the word like coach as something outside of sports, maybe in 2016, maybe 2017,
2016.
when I started
Oh, wow.
reading personal and professional development books and discovered that as a thing. I'm like, oh, these people are making money from it. But also the lessons resonated. heavily, right? Like this big organization doing that I've never heard of. Look at that. Um, and so the exposure to that world, which funny enough came through dabbling in like multi-level marketing for a hot second. That opened my eyes to the education part of it, which to me is the only good part of that business. Um, so that's late, it's less than a decade. I was like, oh, this connects. And because I got into a role after that, um, working with young people to literally be their coach. And so it taught me one of the lessons I've always read about. So I was reading this stuff on personal and professional development, resonating with it, thinking about how can I apply some of those things to myself because I felt very behind and stuck. I'd moved to the US, I'd had this career, couldn't get back into it. I was doing things I didn't want to do. Um, and here it is. I got this opportunity to do the things I was reading about, right?
So
And
that's
then
a
I
lot of
recognized that,
talking.
yes, but all of my experiences, all the ups and downs, I know got to pour that into young people so that they didn't have to make the same mistakes I did.
Wow, such an incredible story. It is. Now I'm curious. Do you still feel like you are not certain of some things up to this moment in your life?
Every day, continually.
And
Yes,
it's a continuous
uncertainty
growth for you.
is, yeah, uncertainty is a constant companion, and it should be because nobody knows everything, right? And we live in a time where the world is changing at a faster rate. And it's not just that we're getting older, so we experience it as that. It is literally that the cycles of business, innovation, geopolitical change are speeding up in our lifetimes. And so that then creates more uncertainty, right? So it's not our heads, it's real.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's more difficult for others, but maybe coaches have a better way of navigating through the challenges of life. So, could you share with us the most important lesson that you've learned throughout that journey and how you moved forward
Uh,
from it?
there are many. I'll pick two quick ones.
Just one. Yeah, that's
One,
enough.
all right. If it's just one, I guess one is that everything is actually possible. Let me see
Oh,
what I
wow.
mean. Um, Rarely for human beings are we in positions where we have no choice of how to act. That is rare. Someone would have to be in, solitary confinement for years to really have that restriction of like, there is no way, right, to act.
Yeah.
But even at the level of thought, we are in charge of what we put into our brains, and
Mm-hmm.
therefore we put out into the world as thought, as action, as words. And so you are never going to create something different or new until you think about it. Therefore, do
Wow.
not limit yourself.
That's a very good wisdom. I think that's too heavy. I hope you've already healed from that. I hope that's not a trauma or something really deep
No,
of a
no, no.
wound.
It is that recognition of, just as I read, because I read a lot about, folks in different eras and the struggle they went through, right? We also reflect on life. And so I recognize that really, until you think about it, it cannot be real. And so
Yeah.
it doesn't matter what religious book you pick up, it's in there. If you read, uh, what do you call it? Think and Grow Rich, it's in
Yeah.
there. If you think about your own business, you have to
Yeah.
think about it before you made it real. Simple as it is. It cannot come into reality until you think about it.
Yeah.
Right.
Totally, totally relatable. I can say the same for for that journey. All right. So you have been you have had a chance or many chances to be with many organizations as well as your businesses in the previous, right? So, is there any risk that you can share with us that did not work out?
A few years ago, I thought, okay, being a kind of fair new immigrant into somewhere, I took a chance on, like I said, these kind of multi-level marketing. I went for like one of the biggest ones that was
FLN.
very
Mm-hmm.
popular, right? Uh, like so many other people, I invested my money in buying the stuff and right.
Mm-hmm. Are that something? Is that something materialistic, or is just that it's an extravagant step for that business? You're freezing, Ali. Ali, you're still here?
And so I was buying I
You're
think my
freezing.
internet was, yeah, you're a freeze for
Okay,
me. It's better now.
let's try that again.
Yes.
Keep
So
going.
I was saying my I bought the basics I had to, so buying the basic amount of product in order to stay in the organization and grow the business. That didn't pan out. And I recognized two things. At that point, I was a professional salesman and I was good, but I was selling something I believed in, and therefore it worked. With this, I did not,
Oh,
right? Therefore, couldn't sell it, right? And so
yeah.
that taught me about my own internal value structure. And so I had to do things I believe in. Not everyone is like that. Some people are great pitchmen for whatever. You give them a product, give them 5 minutes, learn about it, they'll go sell it. I'm not the guy. And so I learned that from that experience, though. So yes, I lost money, you know, long-term impacts from that. But I gained a new lease in terms of information, reading, building up myself, which was a big part of their program, and that part's been invaluable, right? So like
Okay.
there's always something you can recover from any risk you take because they're experiences.
And that's a big risk, but such a sport. You have such good way of dealing with acceptance. Is that something you have already accepted now?
Yeah. Because for example, another one, you see these things in life, these things occur and they recur. It doesn't matter what you're doing, business person or not. Um, you'll always fail at the majority of things you do. Statistically, that's life. That's for every,
Yeah.
that's for job applications, so many other things. If you've ever tried to run a race, right,
Life
it's just
happens.
part of life. Life
Yeah,
happens.
life happens. Now, in one of those businesses that you've managed or maybe you owned but did not work out, have you had um any VAs for that business? And what are the common mistakes of these people looking for jobs that you have experienced?
Well, one funny thing I'll tell you that you probably don't know is that I actually tried to launch a VA business many years ago.
Oh,
Um, yeah, so a friend and myself were talking about it, exploring, um, doing things because between the two of us, we had all the skills. And this was like early 2000s, um,
mm,
right? When the need was higher, the margin was definitely higher. And we're like, hey, let's do this. We're over here in the Caribbean, better access to the US, etc. Um, and so tried that for a little while. We didn't go deep enough, didn't pan out. Although we kind of did mock-ups and whatever. Um, and then of course, with both launching my collective and the coaching service, no, then I have rehab. Um, and so those two experiences tell me a lot about how VAs can work, right? Um, it's a big industry, but I think there's some important things for people to ground themselves in that they may not think about, usually. Um, so so one is to be good at whatever. It has to be something inside you that is making that happen, right? It is not the work itself. So you need to have the disposition and the interest for two reasons. One, hurdles are going to hit you in the face hard. You need to overcome those, right?
Yeah.
And that's anything you're ever doing. And as soon as you start to declare, like, I'm going to do this, then they come, they hit. And so you have to have that resilience, but also a method to learn and implement quickly. Um, for VAs in particular, in my experience, um, cultural flexibility is very important, which requires that you know something about others and are open to learn about others and questioning yourself. That opens you to being able to understand the people who can be potential clients, see things through their eyes, and be able to execute what they need. The other is that the set of skills needed for this is ever changing.
Yeah.
And so one has to be open to adapting and learning new things and then getting comfortable with what are your sweet points? What are you focusing on? What are you going to allow to be someone else, whether that's in your part of things or outside of you. But those two things I think are crucial for being a successful virtual assistant.
Yeah, I think so too. I think with all that you've mentioned, I have experienced all of them on my way to this milestone right now, and I'm just so glad that I still have another successful person that I get to connect with. I can still remember the first time we met, but I've
Mhm.
always been grateful for that, you know, that place, that place where we met. Um, so if you could give this aspiring virtual assistants any advice, Ali, for their aspirations, given the imposter syndrome. I think a lot of virtual assistants, aspiring ones, and even the virtual assistants right now, even me myself, I'm still facing some imposter syndrome. So I'm still trying to overcome like this kind of things that I'm doing right now with the academy as a VA coach. So what advice could you give us for fear of rejection and fear among ourselves?
So there's some really simple things, I think. The number one is people need help. That's why the function exists. People need help. If you're going to offer the help, good, then do that. So what I mean is, and why that's so fundamental is um, you have some skill sets you've learned. People need help with usually fairly basic things. So people are coming to a VA not to help them analyze a portfolio of companies with, data from the last 5 years of their audited returns. It's not that. People need help with running their lives and running the basic stuff that jams up all of us in business, right? Um, so that lens should kind of calm down some of the fears, right? It's simple stuff in one
Yeah.
sense. Other two things are listen and learn. So you have to listen well. If you listen well, you will hear the help that the person actually needs and then be able to deliver. And then, of course, learn. So we are continually learning. And so a good VA is learning different ways to be more helpful to their clients,
Yeah.
right? And they're implementing that. It doesn't mean you're going to be perfect. Everybody makes mistakes. But as long as you keep on learning, then the mistakes they reduce and they change, right? And that's something that people observe. And if you're managing people, you should observe that as well. You have to have patience with people making mistakes because we all do. But if people are learning, then the mistake they made last week, they're not necessarily going to make this week. And there's going to be new mistakes as they conquer new things, right? So give
Okay.
a bit of grace to yourself first to do those things.
Yeah, I think that all goes to ourselves first. Self-care, self-reward, and self-love.
Mm.
All right. This has been a great achievement, Ali. Thank you so much for, again, accepting the invitation and this insightful conversation. Have a good one, and I'll see you soon.
Thank you.
Thank you all for joining tonight's webinar. We hope today's session gave you helpful tips and tools to enhance your communication with international clients. Keep practicing, keep learning, and remember great communication leads to great opportunities. You can visit our website for more information. We offer courses for effective communication, social media management, graphic design, media production, search engine optimization, funnel design, and general virtual assistance. If you cannot find an answer to your question right on the website, please follow our pages. You can also join our community and follow us on TikTok as well as on Facebook.